and sharing an insight into this particular story. Now moving to my colleague Ashish, who continues to join me on the broadcast. Ashish, so as we were discussing, what preemptive actions can Indian Army now take, considering the number of intel reports that we have been tracking time and again?
So exactly what was informed by the Indian intelligence agencies to the Indian Army in fact has been done by the Pakistani Army. Now remember the FATF, the international watchdog, as far as the terror financing and the anti-money laundering aspects are concerned, their plenary session ended on 18th of October in Paris, and they were to decide whether Pakistan should be blacklisted or not. And once you had that decision taking place in Paris, that the FATF is not going to blacklist Pakistan, at least for now, that's exactly what Pakistan was waiting for. And a day after, on 19th, they unleashed the terror that they've been holding since Pulwama attacks. And since then, there have been a lot of artillery guns firing in last few hours after the 19th of evening. And once you had the artillery guns being opened from Pakistani side, the Indian Army also quickly decided to open the artillery guns. Again, as I mentioned, opening artillery guns is a little unusual phenomena. It doesn't happen. That basically suggests a localized mini war in the military domain in terms of the calibrated escalation. And once you had both the sides opening artillery guns, what we can inform our viewers that the primary purpose of Pakistani Army opening the artillery guns and firing towards the Indian post was with an intention and purpose. The purpose and intention was to facilitate the infiltration of the Pakistani terrorists from the Pakistani launch pads, which are generally situated just adjacent to the Pakistani Army post or just behind the Pakistani Army post. And that's the reason why they opened fire towards the Indian Army post, so that the Indian Army post does not get to see and witness exactly who are the terrorists from where the number infiltrating towards the Indian side. And that's the reason why when the Pakistani Army started providing cover fire to the terrorists who started from the Pakistani terror launch pads in Pakistani occupied Kashmir, the Indian Army quickly retaliated and targeted on three different aspects. One is right on the Pakistani posts which were opening fire towards the Indian post. Two, the terrorists who were basically trying to intrude into India in the shield, in the cover of the Pakistani Army's firing. Three, the terror launch pads from where these terrorists started. So all these three locations were targeted. All of them were a total 4 locations in Tangdhar sector and specifically in Neelam Valley. Once you had Indian Army retaliating, almost all the terrorists who either started or from the terror launch pads, they were neutralized. The Pakistani Army posts were neutralized, and in both these aspects, Pakistani Army lost 5 to 6 jawans and officers of Pakistani Army, and all those 5 to 6 terrorists who had started towards the LOC from Pakistan occupied Kashmir, they were also neutralized. In this attempt, certainly there was a requirement of a lot of firing. The locations are 4, but the intensity of firing was much more higher than what we see and witness usually as per the ceasefire violations from Pakistan's side along the LOC is concerned. Now, as far as the FATF aspect is concerned, remember this is something that was known already to Indian government with the help of the NTRO and the intelligence agencies. And when they decided that Pakistani Army is going to unleash terror after the FATF decision, they had already decided. Remember on Monday, the week-long Army Commanders Conference started. And during that course of Army Commanders Conference, the Army decided that they will be retaliating and they will not hold back as far as the intensity and the domain of the retaliation is concerned. And that's the reason it did not take much as per the decision to open the artillery guns towards the Pakistani posts and the Pakistani occupied Kashmir terror launch pads are concerned. So this is how the entire story has unfolded since yesterday late evening, and the Indian Army has now been telling me, the sources from the Army headquarters have been telling me that it's generally a very strong statement which is not issued very frequently, that Indian Army will choose the time and location of the retaliation. It's not going to happen if you have a Pakistani Army opening just the small arms or the usual ceasefire violation that Pakistan Army indulges in. So the Indian Army will also be retaliating with the same intensity or at the same location. The intensity can be chosen in terms of retaliation by the Indian Army. The location can be chosen by the Indian Army. If Pakistani Army is retaliating in one particular sector, and then the Indian Army may retaliate in the different sector or almost 2 or 3 different sectors. That's exactly what was done yesterday. So the Pakistani Army opened fire from 2 or 3 different posts. The Indian Army retaliated at 4 different posts of Pakistani Army, terror launch pads, and also towards the terrorists who are moving towards the LOC. Shiva.
Right, and Ashish, also it exposes Pakistan in front of the world also, and at a crucial time, because as per the intel reports, we got to know that Pakistan is going to plan a major attack after the FATF decision. And today also, as we can track the information, Pak provided cover for terrorists. So this comes at a crucial time wherein Indian Army on one hand has of course given a befitting reply, but has also exposed Pakistan.
I don't think the Pakistani government or the army is much bothered about how are they getting exposed, because this has now become their usual phenomena, and they are aware that Pakistani government and Pakistani army has no credibility and face value as far as the military and the international politics domains are concerned. And that's the reason why, they are facing the FATF. They were worried until a couple of days ago about being blacklisted by an international body. They are worried about the local domestic politics, at the same time the economy, that this country is in a mess. And that's the reason why their primary focus is not about the international bodies or how the world will look at them or how the neighboring countries will look at them. That I think they have passed that stage well beyond. And in addition to these experiences and the realization, the Pakistani army is focusing more on the face-saving measures. That's the reason why they are indulging in such activities when they know that the Indian government decided unilaterally as far as the 378-35 decision is concerned, and no major power or institution in the world could do anything as far as the Indian government decision on 378-35 is concerned, and they completely were lost face value and the credibility at the international domain. So all that they are bothering about currently is just how to save face and talk to their own people, domestic population. And that's the reason why they're just focusing simply on creating more intensity and heat along the LOC between India and Pakistan, so that the Kashmir situation can be highlighted. And they are trying to create a lot of trouble in Kashmir with the help of these intruders from the terrorists from the Pakistani occupied terror launch pads. Shiva.
Right, Ashish. Now, if we go to the crux of this particular big attack that has been, that has been done by the Indian Army, what was the basic idea behind this, and how all of this progressed?
Progress in the military domain or in the international domain?
Military.
No, that completely depends on the action from the Pakistani side. The Pakistani army's location and the intensity will decide the Indian army's retaliation, intensity and location. See, when you have Pakistanis indulging in terms of just the, say, a small arms weapon firing, the Indian army generally does not cross into a different and a higher domain of reaction. But when you have Pakistani army opening the artillery guns to provide the cover fire to the intruders, the Indian army will not hesitate as far as the retaliatory measures are concerned. At the same time, not just in terms of domain of the location, but also the domain of intensity. If the Pakistani army targets just 1 or 2 Indian posts to provide the cover fire, the Indian army will retaliate in maybe 2 or 5 or 10 locations of Pakistani army and posts and the terror launch pads as per the time and location of their own choosing. It's high time that the Pakistani army realizes. Now, what has been happening in the last few decades is basically the retaliation from the army side has been pretty controlled. But now when you have going little out of control, but in a calibrated escalation manner, that gives a kind of taste of its own medicine to Pakistan, what they indulge in. It certainly poses risk to the civilians in the Pakistani occupied Kashmir side, but at the same time, the Indian villagers and the residents and the civilians also remain in the line of fire. But what to do? The attack is the best form of defense, is what the Indian Army has now decided. As I mentioned, it's a decision that has been taken at the highest level in a proper intelligence-based input manner.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.